welcome. I'm glad you're here to craft with me today. Today we're going to make this cute little fall scene with a scarecrow that has the option to backlight it if you want with some string lights, some LED string lights. It has a little pumpkin here that's lit and a little lantern, and then at night you can also see a little half moon come up. So this is all made of cardstock, plus there is a piece of acetate here, clear acetate that is optional if you want to use that to make it more like a true shadow box and protect it from the inside there. And here's what it looks like lit. So this is what we're going to make today. So let's get started. First we're going to put together the gnome. So I'm going to start with all the body layers first, and I'm going to go through and just fold up on all of these score lines. There's a little score line up here, but we're just going to ignore that for now. That's for location purposes later. So just fold up on those scores for the arms and the lower legs. There's also two little score lines here on this little brown plaid piece that goes on top for the shirt. And then you'll find on this little jeans that there's a little horizontal line at the top that's meant to be like a little belt that kind of sticks out a little bit. Just add a little more detail. So you just want to fold down on that little line too, folding it to the front. And then just straighten it right back out. So now we'll just adhere all of these in order. And what I do is I'll just put some glue just on the back of each piece. Just a little bit, you don't need too much. Less is more, that way you don't have a lot of glue to clean up. So there's two of these straw layers. These layers are meant to be for the little straw that hangs out to the arms and the legs. So there's two layers so that you can have some depth, a little bit of depth to the straw. I like to add a little bit of more detail when I can in there. Plus it makes it a more sturdy gnome as well. All right. Now we'll add the orange layer. That's for the shirt. It makes it really easy to line all these up when you just locate them according to their score lines. They just fall right into place. And now we'll add the plaid layer that goes on top of the shirt. So we'll just turn that over, and all you need is just a few little dabs here and there. A couple for the arms, just a couple too for the body. You don't want to put too much glue because then you'll have to come back and clean up the excess, and it doesn't take very much glue to keep this little piece in place. So we're just going to put this here, lining it up with the top. I like to kind of take this weeding tool here and just clean up the excess glue as I go. It also helps too with locating small pieces and stuff later. Okay. So now we can add the jeans on. So we'll just flip this over to the back and add a little bit of glue. And again, don't put any on this tab here. So then we'll just put that in place. I thought this color turned out pretty cute for jeans. I was glad I had this darker navy blue. Okay, so we're gonna leave this part here for now, and we're gonna go ahead and come over here, grab the arms. These are suspender straps, so they're going to require 2 little buttons, the little yellow buttons, and then these 2 little rectangle pieces are for the cuffs that go on the arms, and then we're going to need this patch that goes on the leg, and then these 2 straw pieces that make it look like the pocket is having the straw come out of it. So we'll go ahead and do those first. Just put a little dab of glue on each of these little straw pieces. Doesn't take too much again, glue, just to hold it in place. And then we're gonna just put a little bit of glue on the back, and then line these up, these over a bit. We're going to line these up with the edge, outer edge of the pant leg. We'll put a little dab of glue here on the leg and just drop on this little patch. And now we'll just put a dab of glue up here because we want to put on those cuffs for the arm, these little yellow rectangles. And now we'll put the straps, the suspenders on. So we'll just put a little bit of glue on the back. And then just kind of line these up about here, just maybe an 1/8 inch in from the side, right here of the stomach one there. And it just tucks underneath of this little piece that's sticking out. Gives it a little bit more depth. And you want those to kind of stay to the outer edge, that way once we put the beard for the gnome one, you can still see the suspender straps. So then we're going to just put the tiniest dab of glue for these little buttons. Just kind of put those where you would like them. All right, so now we have the hat for the gnome and all these little pieces that'll go with it. And we also have the beard and the nose. So first we're going to start with the beard, and you'll see a little score line up here, horizontal score line. We're just going to fold up on that. And that is the tab that you're going to use to adhere this to match up with this score line here. So in essence, we're going to add a little bit of curve to this first, but what you're going to do is glue this. You'll see this line right here for the score line. You're just going to glue this tab right at the score line. and that's how that'll go on. But first, what we're going to do is I like to take the scraper tool. It has a lot of use because I like to take up some of my pieces and just add some curl to them, which adds more depth. So I just put it in between my fingers and press down and pull out at the same time. It gives it a nice curl under. Just do that a few times until you have the right amount of curl that you want. And then we'll just add a little bit of glue on here. And again, just line it up with that horizontal line. Press down a little bit. And then it comes right back down. And so you can see too that you can also see the suspenders on the side there. So now we're going to take the mustache that goes over the beard and again add a little bit of curl in that. Just make sure you hold the center there. And there's two little tabs on the top here. So just fold up on those. And again, these tabs are the only way we're going to adhere it to this beard. So we're just going to put a dot of glue on each of these little tabs. And then we're going to line it up with this nose. So the roundness of the cutout in the mustache lines up with the cutout on the beard exactly. And then we're going to just press down on the tabs. So that gives this a little bit of depth because it's not glued down and you still get your curl on the mustache. Okay. So now we're going to work on the hat, which is two pieces. First I want to go ahead and glue this trim onto the bottom of the hat. Let that dry for a moment. And fold down on these two tabs. And then this is going to be the rim of the hat, and it has 3 tabs that you'll want to fold up on. And how this is going to work is this will actually, we're going to add some curl to both of these pieces, but then these tabs will fit underneath the hat to allow it to fold up a little bit, kind of independently of this top piece. So what we're going to do again is take our scraper tool and then just add some depth here. Kind of like to curl it like this a little bit too, just to give it a little bit more help with bending around. And it makes it easier to glue onto the back of this gnome. And then again, with our tabs pointed up, we're just going to add some curl in the downward motion for this hat rim. And then we're going to go ahead and glue this on. We're just going to put 3 little dabs of glue on here. And then just glue it right in place. Just hold each tab for a second. There we are. So you can see how the tabs are on the back. And then you have to come in and add just, recurl it a little bit because I flattened it as I was putting those tabs on, but you could see how the rim moves a little bit independent so that once we get it on there, you can, pull this up a little bit if you want to see some more of the nose or the beard or mustache. So now what we're going to do is, let's see. First, I did forget one little step. I forgot I wanted to add this nose on first. So this nose will actually go right over, of course, this hole here. So what you have to do is just put a little bit of glue on the very outside of this nose. This nose is easier to put on before you put the hat on, so that's why I wanted to do that first. And then just hold it there for a second. I try to get it down, you know, to where this mustache comes in at the center. You know, kind of line it up with that and just hold it there for a second. Okay, so now we're going to flip this over and flip the hat over. And we're gonna put, I'll show you how it goes first. So it'll end up looking like this. So these tabs will fold in, so the glue is gonna be on this underside here. And you just wanna make sure that this line on the hat, this horizontal line here, when you look at it from the back, you're gonna see this horizontal line that you saw from the front. You know, just kind of line those up so that the top of the hat falls in a line here, so that these two line up. So I like to put one side down first. And again, you're just gonna have to hold it here for a moment. Just to let it adhere. Remember, it's gonna lose a bit of curl, so then you come back and just curl this a little bit with your finger. And then adhere the other side. And now to let that, to cover up the back, give that a nice clean look, we're gonna add this piece. It's designed so that the little swirl is to the right hand side. So it's gonna look like that. So we're gonna just flip this over, add some glue here. And again, just at the top here. Make sure I didn't get it backwards. I think I got it. I confused myself, so it should be like that. So now we'll just add that to the back. And now we're going to use this, this line hanging down here is meant to be the pole in which this little gnome is hanging, to be the scarecrow out in the field. So we're just going to put a little bit of glue on here. And the pole should run down the center here. So we're almost done with the gnome. And again, you can come back once this hat dries a little bit. Just lift that up if you like. I've got this one little tab coming out. I want to get it back in there. Guess I didn't put enough glue on that one. Clean up this glue a little bit. So now we want to add the patch to the hat rim. Now we want to add the flower and the leaf to the hat. So I like to add just a little bit of curl, just to give it again a little 3D depth. to the flower on each layer. So each flower is exactly the same. There's 4 flowers all together in this whole project. They're all the same, only they're different sizes. So the smallest one goes on the hat. And just curl them under a little bit. And then quickest way I found is just to put a dab of glue on 2 of them. And then just oppose the leaves. And then just add the smallest brown dot to the center. And for this little leaf, you'll notice some score lines for some detail. You could just bend on the center of the leaf, on that center score line. Fold the 2 sides in. And then we could curl down, just again to give the leaf a little bit of depth. Then we'll just put a dab of glue on the back of this leaf. Then add the sunflower. Okay, so our gnome is all together. So now we can set that to the side. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all the pieces together first that go inside of the shadow box insert. And then we're going to put it together the outside box. So we're going to move on to this pumpkin next. So this little piece here is the vellum that'll go to, behind the pumpkin to help it to diffuse the light. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna first glue these 3 pieces together, and then we'll glue this one. So we're gonna take the orange one, the larger orange, and glue it on top of the green. Lining them up perfectly with the cutouts in the center. And then this one's meant to just give it a little bit of depth. Another layer on top. What I'm actually going to do first, before I put this little vellum piece on, it's going to be easier to go ahead and add some curl to this pumpkin. So just curl it underneath on both sides. And that'll give it the roundness for 3D depth. And now we can just come back here. You don't need too much glue for vellums. Sometimes the less the better. So just a few little dabs, not very much. Matter of fact, I think I'm just going to try that for now. Put that in. Just hold it there for a second. Just make sure it's covering all of the cutouts for the eyes and nose and mouth. There we are. So now this little part here is going to go on the back, and you see it has two little score lines here that are vertical score lines, and just gonna bend on those tabs. Bend on those score lines so that you have two little tabs. So that there's tabs when you flip it over to the back, that they're pointed like this. And then we're just going to put a little bit of glue on here. And glue it to this back. And this brown piece right here is going to be how we attach the pumpkin to the light box. So that's what these two little tabs are going to be for. Just make sure that adheres well and it's curving with the rest of the pumpkin too. And then we have this little piece here. This is going to be like a little curved box, if you will, that we're putting on the background to actually hold this pumpkin out a little bit so it can be lit. So you'll notice it has two vertical and two horizontal score lines, so you just want to fold up on those. So it's going to sort of create like a box when we're done. Sort of like a little miniature light box. So we have these folded up. So now these little tabs here, those have little score lines. We're just going to add a little bit of glue to those, and those are going to hold the box sides in place. So just a dab of glue. Fold it down to the outside is the easiest. And then just do that to all four corners. Okay, so now we have a little curved light box, if you will. So this is how it's going to go on. You just want to flip it over so that the curved edges is going to match the contour of that pumpkin, kind of like that. So I'm going to fold these two tabs out on the brown layer on the pumpkin, and this is actually going to fit inside of there. So it depends on how you want to do it. I like to fit both sides in at the same time and then just come back and add glue to the little tabs and glue them. So that's how it's going to fit together there. So now all you got to do is add a little bit of glue. You can use this little tool to help adhere the sides. There we have a light box, and this will help us locate this pumpkin to put it on the background of the light box. You can see that it perfectly matches the curve of the pumpkin. So we're going to set this pumpkin to the side now. Next we'll grab these two pieces here. This is the direction that they're going to go on the background of the shadow box. So what you want to do is, I like to flip them over, just add a little bit of curl to this one, which will be the base or the bottom layer, and then do the same here, flip it over, add a little bit more curl to these, and then we're just gonna put a dab of glue in the center here. So that gives those a little bit of depth. And then glue on the band in the center. We'll set that to the side. Next we'll grab this haystack. And this kind of folds sort of like a box. So just fold down on all of these little tabs. And we can just glue it together. Place glue on these two tabs first is the easiest. So now you have a completed little box. So these two little hay layers, you'll find score lines on these as well. So these actually wrap around. You'll see the bottom has the straight edge that will line up with the bottom of the box. And then the score lines here, that's where you'll fold and bend it around the side of the hay. So really all you have to do is flip this over and just on this center line here, just add a little bit of glue. Again, it wraps around the side. This one has a little score line right here. And that goes on top of the previous layer. Then this little piece here, it just goes across as the bands for the haystack. So this little piece on the end, just fold at that score line. It'll wrap around the side just to help it stick together in here. And then these score lines will wrap around the side, the other side. So just put a little bit of glue. Don't need very much. And then just line it up across the center to match the other horizontal lines. Okay, now we'll set this to the side. And next we'll work on these leaves. Really all you need to do for those, they have one score line going down the center, so you just want to fold up on those. We'll apply those to the background of the shadow box in a little bit, but we'll just go ahead and get them ready by adding the little bit of bend in there to give them some depth when we put them on the background. And then we have the 3 flowers left. Again, there's 2 big ones and a smaller one. So these 2 are the same size, so we'll do those just like we did the others, just adding a little bit of curve to them. You don't want to pull too much when you're adding the curve because it might tear a leaf off or one of the stems on here, so just trying to give it a little bit of curve to make it pop out from the background. Again, we're just going to alternate the leaves. I find it helpful to use this little tool to hold it there for a second. Take the biggest dot for the center. And we just do the other two the same way. Okay, so we'll just set these aside for later. Now, this is the trickiest little piece, but it's not too bad. It's just got a lot of little folds on it you have to look for. But this is the little lantern, of course, that will get light coming through it. So this is actually going to be, just so you know, there are two little slits in the background here on either side of this hole that the light will be coming through, that it'll get the tabs from this lantern will go through to the back to help hold it in place securely. So those tabs that go through the back are going to be these right here on the edge here and here. So those are actually going to fold out like this when they go through the back there. So these others just form the lantern shape like this. They all get folded downwards. And then this little tab on the bottom gets folded inwards. And then the top has a little bit of like angle to it. So all these little tabs can get folded down. So when we put it in on the background, glue it into place, it's going to look something like this. So these little tabs will get glued under on the top here, and then this top will come over and get glued down. But first what we're gonna do is, when we get to this step, we're gonna put these two little tabs into the slot in the back, and then that's gonna make it easier to put this little top together. So not too bad. But by going ahead and scoring or folding on all these score lines, now we can go ahead and put just little dabs of glue and add this little vellum on there. Whoops. It jumped. And we can set that to the side. So now we're going to go ahead and do what we can for our fence as well. So this is going to be the horizontal boards that go across on our fence that goes out front. So you'll find that there's little score lines on the left and right. So just fold down on those. That's all we need to do that for now. And these little posts are all made the same. They're just varying heights, just a little bit different heights on those. And they actually just form a little angled box. So just fold in and down on all of these little score lines. And on the smallest tab, you'll find, which is this one right here, that's where you'll connect the box shape for the post. So just put a little bit of glue on there. And just hold it together for a second. And then on the top, you'll see there's a little horizontal score line here and here. So that's where you'll just bend to come down over this angled top here. And then bend on this little tab so that you can connect it. I like to fold it out a little bit. It helps it stick in that hole a little bit better. Just a little bit of glue on there. And just hold it there for a second. And that's it. And then we'll just do the other three the same way. Okay, so now we have all of our little pieces ready to put inside of our shadow box. So we'll just move all of this to the side for now. And we do have these 4 pieces here. These are the, I call it the light band. So this is where we're gonna add in, if you wanna add lights to your shadow box, this is gonna allow us to just give a frame for the lights, where we'll stick the lights through these little, we'll stick the wire for the lights through these little slits here. So we'll make these into little, just like box-like frames, which will be pretty simple, but we're not gonna do that to the end, so you can just leave those to the side for now. So what we have here are all these pieces. We're just going to take these out, put these to the side for now. First, we're going to be concerned about these blue pieces. So you've got 3 rectangle pieces and you've got the background here. So just fold down on all of these tabs to create a box for the shadow box. I've always loved shadow boxes for some reason. I just think it's cute to have all these little things in them, especially when they light up. So now that we've folded on all these score lines, we're going to come back and add these lines in here. First, we want to make sure we have it the right side up. So we want to make sure this moon is towards the top. This little hole here is going to be where we put the pumpkin, and this will be for the lantern. But these extra strips here are just going to be to add some more support to the right and left sides and the top of the box, so it's a little bit sturdier. So it'll be easier to take in and out of your light box, of your black shadow box. Just line that up with the inside in between the score lines. Okay, now we're going to connect all these pieces. So it gives a better finish to the box, so that when you put it into your shadow box, you don't see these little tabs on the inside. It's better to see those, you know, that those are on the outside, so you don't actually see them. So we're going to glue those on the outside to connect this box. You know what, just want to hold it there for a moment. Get these corners nice and creased. It does make it much more sturdy with these extra pieces on the side. We didn't put one on the bottom because there's actually a base that's going to go in there, which will hold the fence posts. All right, so now we have the box. So then we're going to take this green layer here and flip it over to the back. And again, your moon should be pointing up right now. Just add some glue. Drop that in place and line it up with all the holes. Okay, so this part here is where we're going to grab our lantern piece. And this is the part, the layer that has the two little slits in it here. You also notice here, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there's little score lines here. This is going to help us locate our gnome right here, here in a little bit when we get to that stage. So what we're going to do to affix this little lantern is just put the tabs through here. So I'm going to start with the one side. Again, make sure this angled part is upwards. Just add a little bit of glue here. Press down, hold it there for a second so make sure it's already adhered. And again, notice we're bending the tab to the opposite of this window, so we keep this window clear so we can add light through there. Okay, once that's affixed, then we could just bend this back and it makes it easier to get this other side in. All these little bends make it tricky to get it in there, but okay. There we are. Then we can go ahead and glue the bottom. So we're just going to put a little bit of glue on the outside of this tab here. And this makes a nice little box to contain the light. Let me just take a little bit of this off so it's not too messy. Okay, so now we're just gonna bend these two sides under. I'll bend this back so you can kind of see what it looks like here. We're just gonna add a little bit of glue to this little tab right here, just so we can fold down the other side and line those two up. Just hold it there for a second. And then we'll add a little bit of glue to these. So we can pull this up and just hold that there for a second. Now we'll put a little bit of glue on the top here and on this outside so we can wrap it around to complete the box at the top. So that glues it to the back of the shadow box. So again, that'll contain all of the light for that box. So now with that complete, we can flip this over and add some glue to the back. Again, lining up all of these holes. And now that we have this blue on, you can see that these little cutout lines here are actually going to be the stems for the sunflowers. So now we'll take this little piece here, and this is going to be the rows of crops that are in the field. So we'll just put a little bit of glue in there. and line it up perfectly in this open area. Got a little bit of excess glue here. Okay, now we're going to grab the base. We'll put this to the side. We'll grab this piece right here, and you'll see it has all kinds of horizontal scores here. Essentially, you're going to make a box. There is a score line right here that creates a little box on the top here. You can just ignore that for now and just fold on all of these horizontal and these two verticals on each side. This is essentially what we're looking at here. It's just going to be a box, and these two ends will close up just like this. So it'll look like this when you're done. So we'll go ahead and glue all this together. Okay, here we go. So this is the way it's going to go in with these posts being towards the front. So now what we're going to do is grab our haystack, and that is what this score line here is for. It's meant to be just a placement for your haystack. So we can go ahead and put some glue in that area and just place it on this background, aligning it with the back and side here. Make sure they line up perfectly. Just hold that down for a second so it adheres. Okay, there we go. So now we'll add this base to the bottom of the inside of the shadow box. To do that, we're just going to put some glue on the base, on the sides here, and on the bottom. And just put it in here and press the sides down. Press it to the bottom first. Make sure it's all the way seated in there. And then press the sides in. And notice I didn't put any glue on this haystack. You really don't need to do that. And also, the reason I didn't do that later when we go to put the fence post and the boards for the fence post on. It makes it a little bit easier. Okay, there we are. So next we're going to add on the popcorn stalks. I just want to put a little bit of glue on those on the back. I kind of leave the top without any glue so it'll stick out a little bit more. And then we're just going to put those down the right side, lining it up with the edge of the shadow box. So that the base touches the bottom there. Okay. Then we're going to add this little pumpkin on with its little light box. So again, that's going to go right here, and it's just going to set right on top of this. Got a little bit of glue on there. It's just going to set right on top of that haystack. And you can see that when you turn it over to the back, that the hole for the light box, or the light that goes through the pumpkin, will line up just exactly with the hole in the back of here. So what we're going to do is just place a little bit of glue in here, just on the outer frame, and then place it right in place. And hold it there, and then turn it over and just make sure that this is lining up exactly. So if you need to push it over a little bit, you can, and just hold it there for a second, just so it doesn't move when we flip it back over. So what this little light box does, it ensures that it's only illuminating the pumpkin and light's not coming out from the pumpkin. Okay, there we are. So now we can come in and add, I think it's easier, we'll add this gnome in a minute. First, we'll add these flowers on. It's a little bit easier to do that first. And to do that, we're just going to put some glue just right at the tips here. And then just place the flowers on. Okay. And now we're going to put some glue on this pumpkin. And again, pumpkin, it's a gnome, sorry. There's the score lines in here that indicate a lineup for the outside shape of the gnome, which really is the shape back here, because this is the only place we're going to put glue on. So what we're going to do, put a little bit of glue back of here, because we want the arms and the legs to hang out. And then a little bit on the pole. And then just place this right in place according to those lines. And just press down a little bit. Again, this little arm should come out right above the lantern, so it looks like he's holding the lantern out. And then press down on this. I think it'll be easier if you use this little tool here to press down on this little pole. There he is. So now we can add these 4 little leaves on here. Again, just place them about like so. It's easier to place the leaves after the gnome is actually in, so the gnome doesn't cover any of the leaves. You can use tweezers for something like this too if you have them. I know I have some that came with my Cricut tools. I use them sometimes. All right. So that's where we're at right now. So now the last part for putting items inside of this box is to put these fence posts in and then put the boards that go across the fence post. And so first we're just gonna put a little bit of glue. Let me show you first how these work. So the depth of this is about 0.375 or so. So these actually stick down into there and they hold. So you just want to put some glue in there on the base all the way around. It's better. You just want to hold them in there for a second. You can see that or not. I like to clean up the glue too around the edges here. And I like to turn or alternate these little angles as well. One facing right and one left. Just hold it straight for a moment and it'll glue right in place. Here's what it should look like so far. And our final one. Clean up this glue. Again, you just hold them down just for a moment and they each adhere. Doesn't take very long. Okay, and this is the final piece that we'll have to put on the inside here. Just gonna let these posts dry for a minute before we try and turn it on its side here. Okay, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of glue down here too. I see this side isn't quite adhering at the base. So go glue that for a second. Okay, so now the way these boards work that go on the fence is these sides will glue in to go all the way to the back here. And that's kind of why we didn't put any glue on this haystack here, so it could fit in behind that haystack and go to the back of the box. And this will be like so as well. So it'll end up looking like that. So what I'm gonna do is just add a little bit of glue to the outside first on one side here. I think it's easier to start with the side where the haystack is, and then just push this in. And then again, I'll use my little tool here. Just get those sides, just stay there for a moment. Just hold them in place so that those corners stick nice and tight to the side here. Whoops. And we're going to do the same to this other side here. So we'll just add some glue to the outside. And then just drop that in. Push it to the back. And then just press this fence onto the side here. Could do it, lay it on its side is probably the easiest way to do it. Just so you can see what I'm doing here, I'm just pushing this fence down onto the side and holding it there for a second. Makes that fence post nice and tight. I'll pull that up a little bit. Got it a little crooked. There we are. Okay, so now what we want to do is actually, I only really add just one dab of glue onto each post, and I do it right behind this horizontal board here, and that seems to hold the fence post in place just fine. So I'm just gonna place my bottle down in here and just add a little dab of glue. You can add it to the bottom too if you feel the need to. And then just hold that for a second. Probably put a little bit too much glue there. The less glue you put down, the less you have to clean up. There's that one. Our final one here. Okay, there we go. I do want to add a little bit of glue to the edges here. You can see how that little fence, the boards are hanging out a little bit. I want those to be tight up against the wall, so I'm just going to add some more glue. And then just press it down again. Didn't quite land where I wanted it to. There. So our box is complete. Okay, so now we're going to put together the light frame, which will include these 4 pieces. So we'll push this to the side, and you'll see you have 2 longer pieces, and those are meant to go on the length of the box on the right and left. And then these 2 shorter pieces will go across the top and the bottom. So you'll find several score lines on each piece. There's 4 score lines that run parallel with the piece. So we're just going to fold on all of those to create like a little box shape for the frame. You can use a little ruler to help you with this if you want. And you can also press down with this scraper to help you get some nice creases on the edges of those. You'll notice that in the center there are slits that run along each piece, and those are where you'll actually put the cord of the lights, the little wire cord of the lights inserted into there. So that gives you a lot of little slots on the sides and the top and bottom that you're able to adjust to fit the lights where you want them. Once we've got all of the edges folded on the score lines, then you'll find the tab, which has the 2 little angled ends, and we'll just add a little bit of glue to that. Fold that in and just create a little box shape. When that's done, we'll just do that to all 4 pieces. Okay, so now we have all 4 sides. So now what we want to do is just line them up in a rectangle shape. And we want to make sure that all of the slits are to the inside of the rectangle. So the long sides go on the left and right, and the shorter on the top and the bottom, with all of the slits to the inside. Once we've done that, we're just going to fold these little tabs down. You'll see that there's a little tab to the inside here on the long pieces, and then there's another tab on the outside that's longer, and it actually has a little score line here to fold down. So it'll look something like this. So what's going to happen is these little sides just fit right in there, and you glue these tabs to it, and it holds it nice and perfectly and square. So we'll just fold all of those in. And we'll just take each corner and place a little bit of glue on each of these tabs on the insides of the tabs. and just hold it in place for a couple seconds. And then just place each corner of the short ends into the tabs. It helps if you lay it down flat on your surface too to help hold the tabs down. Looks like this one needs a little more glue. This one last corner here. Okay, so now we have a completed frame. So now we'll set these to the side. And we'll pull together the pieces for our shadow box. So what we'll have are two of these bottom pieces with the holes out. These are exactly the same. We're gonna put one to the side and keep this one in front of us. And then we've got these 4 pieces all together that look like this, that have all the scores going vertically. So you have 2 of each pieces. 2 are for the shorter side, which are the top and bottom, and then the longer 2 pieces are for the sides, left and right sides. So we'll start with those. So what we're going to do is go ahead and fold on all of the score lines. All of these sides, all of these pieces will make up the sides of the shadow box. And you'll notice these 2 shorter ones have the 2 tabs on each side, and those will actually connect all 4 sides. you can go ahead and fold in on those side tabs. Okay, so now we have all 4 pieces folded. So now we're gonna pull this together. So it's actually gonna look like this. I like to put the hole in the bottom left corner. So these shorter pieces are gonna go at the top and bottom. So these are oriented, so now that all of the folds are going to be to the inside. So how this is going to work is this is actually going to have this long tab here. So the long tab will be on the bottom. It's going to go underneath of this base piece and get glued in. So just that tab will be glued in under the base piece. And then it's actually going to wrap around like this to form the sides. So we'll start with this short one here. Just place a little bit of glue on this tab. And then simply put the base piece on top to line it up with the tab. Score on the tab, lining up those corners perfectly. And then I'll just flip it around and do the same with the other side. And then put on your longer sides. Press kind of firmly on all of these tabs that are overlapped underneath to make sure they're adhered well. And then I like to fold down on these again. It makes the sides stand up nice and firm. So now we're going to add glue to the inside of these tabs. And glue each side in place. Connect each side. You'll have to move these top flaps out of the way. It makes it a lot easier. Just make sure the corners are nice and square. And then just do that to each side. And just fold back on this for now. It'll make it easier on you. Comes a little bit out of square, so I'm just going to try that again. Okay, so now we have all the sides completed in place. So we'll fold these scores for the sides back down. And you can see how when the sides come over, they complete like a lip for each side. And you can see how that'll come together. Once everything's, once the tabs are glued down, they'll actually stick in place well and all the sides will match up together. So all we need to do to put these sides in place is just to put a little bit of glue on this bottom tab and then just roll it under until it meets back with the side, this outer side here. So just make sure that that's nice and firm in place, and then just press down and let the glue adhere for a second. Again, make sure that bottom has got that tab pressed all the way up against the back side here. And continue to do the same with all the sides. You can see how the corners form together exact as you glue each of the tabs to the bottom of the base. Keeps them nice and firm. Need to add a little bit more glue to this other corner here. Okay, so now we'll take this frame border piece, and that goes on top of these walls, kind of reinforce them and hold them together and give it a nice finish. So we're just going to put some glue around the whole thing. And I just place this on top. Connect the corners. Pull it so the corners, the two sides meet exactly with the corners on the frame piece. So that makes it nice, sturdy, rigid walls. And now for this piece here, which is a duplicate of the base, we're just going to flip this over, and you can see that the tabs are showing from the back, so to give this a nice clean finish and a little more stability, we're just going to glue this in place over top. So we're just going to place glue out to the edges. A little bit in the center. Just line up the holes perfectly. Now we have a nice sturdy box. So we're going to set this to the side, and now we'll work on the lid for the box. So you'll have these three pieces left for the box itself. This is the clear acetate. This is optional, really. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to, but I like to give it a nice, glassy look and protect the inside from some dust or dirt or whatever. So I like to adhere this with some double-sided tape. It works obviously better than glue because the glue is slippery. You could also use a little bit of hot glue as well, but double-sided tape seems to work best. So this is going to be easier to put on this border while it's laying flat. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So this border just goes on the front of the box. So what I'm going to do is just look and see where it would be nice and centered on this frame, according to the score lines here. And then I'll just put a few dabs of glue in each corner. And in the center, not too much because we don't want to make too much of a mess. And then just center this around the cutout area. Okay, and we'll flip this over. And you can see that the acetate overlaps the window cutout a good bit, so you have some room there to adhere with tape. Just some small pieces, it doesn't require very much. Again, you can use a little bit of hot glue if you prefer to do that. Okay, and now we'll take all of our score lines to form the box and just fold in on all the sides. And then fold in on the tab scores. And then again, now we'll go ahead and connect the sides, just like we did on the base with the tab. Just place a little bit of glue on the outside of the tab and connect it with the inside of the box. Okay, so here's our lid, and now all we need to do is put on the embellishments. So I'm going to set this to the side. So you should have 2 of each of the different leaves, 2 orange and 2 green, and 3 sets of flowers. This kind of brings the motif from the inside to the outside of the frame. So you'll see you have a larger set and 2 equal size smaller sets. And you have a center for each of those. And you have this nice cute swirly that we're going to put on with the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and make our leaves by finding first the score line that runs vertically and just folding on that. Just to fold the leaves in half. And then just curl out a little bit on the ends. And now we'll do each of the flowers just like we did before, adding a little bit of curl to all the leaves. So now we'll just overlap each of the 3 layers, put a small dot of glue in the center, and stagger the leaves. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and glue this swirl piece. We'll just put a dab of glue on the back of the larger sunflower. Just hold it there for a second. And now we're ready to glue all this in place on top of the lid. So the way this is going to go is this sunflower will just be placed in the corner, and then one of the smaller sunflowers beside of it, and then each of the color leaves will just underlap. And then the top corner will look like this. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue all that in place. So now our lid is complete. So we have our lid and our base, and we have the frame for the lights, and then we have our insert. So first thing we're going to need to do is place our lights inside. So we're going to set the lid to the side now. And now we're going to place the frame inside the box. So we're going to glue that in place, and we're going to gather our lights. So for the lights, I like to use these are from a local craft store. and they're timer, which I love the timer lights. And they're just these string of 30 LED lights, so which are easy to use, and actually the wire is very flexible, so you can easily put it into the slits on the frame of the light bar. So we're just going to glue this in place on the bottom of the box. Just press down so it adheres nicely to the bottom. And now we're going to take our light string and place it up through the bottom of the hole and pull the whole string of lights through. Until you get to the end where just the plastic is hanging out. So it'll look like this. And I just like to bend it there so we know what we've got to work with as far as lights and covering the whole area. So I like to remember as I'm putting the lights in, where the light is going to be focused on this box. So remember, we're putting it in like this. So the lighted areas are going to be concentrated on this lower left side and this almost mid right side. And then we also have the moon that's at the top that'll be kind of like in this area. So I'm actually going to focus and concentrate more light, little lights in those areas as I'm putting the string in and inserting it into the sides of the slits within the light frame. So I'm going to start up at one corner. And I'll just bend on the little cord here and then just insert it into the slit. I try not to put any of the lights into the slit. I just put the little cord into the slit. And these work really well because the cord bends so easily and fits into the slits, and it stays. Sometimes they pop out and you just have to put them back in. So I'm just going to come across, work my way down from one side to the other, putting the lights in the slits. So again, I remember I was saying that the moon is up here in this vicinity. So I'm just gonna wrap around a few lights, and you could tape these down too if you want. I like to just leave them, hanging, or leave them free so that if I put a different design in here, like a different insert, then it's easy to just, move the lights around next time. But again, you can always tape them if you prefer. Again, I'll concentrate a few more lights in this area because I know that the This is where that little lantern is. And then our pumpkin will be on this side. So I'll take the remaining lights and just curl those around here, just to give as much light as possible through this area. You can even double this back and put it back in the hole here. Spread these lights out a little bit. Okay. So that's what our lights will look like. So now you can just place your insert there. Of course, I have lights in the studio, so this will look better at night, you know, or when the lights aren't directly on the box and you light it up. The moon will be kind of like a hidden, I call it a dead front moon, because you don't see it from the front, but when you light it from the back, you know, it's a nice hidden surprise. This fits nice and snug. And you can see I also have these corners, or these little indentations in the side, so it's easier to get out at a later time if you wanted to put a different insert into the box. So here's our finished box. And you can see where it's lit nice and well, you know. And like I said, the moon, you can't really see it during the daytime. You can see it a little bit right here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it's a nice look at nighttime, because again, you can't see it during the day, but at night you can just see it kind of fading in. Okay, so here's our nice little shadow box that we've made.